I'm Bridget Saladino.
And I'm Jeff Sittler.
Thanks for watching. We're here today to have a conversation about an upcoming class that we'll be leading in January. And before we kick it off, let's get to know each other a little bit. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, you bet. So I'm an occupational therapist, and I've been working in that field since about 2006. Worked with various populations, elderly, kids, early intervention, and I have extensive training in the areas of mental health and specifically mind-body medicine, and have also done recently experienced trainings in the nurtured heart approach. So happy to be here with Bridget.
Thank you so much. And let's see, my background, I'm a mental health therapist in Portland, Oregon. I'm also a Nurtured Heart Approach advanced trainer, having discovered that when I had a teenager in crisis, and I implemented this new approach after trying everything else, and it transformed our home overnight. So I'll say a little bit more about that, but I incorporate the Nurtured Heart Approach into my therapy practice, and I incorporate a lot of mindfulness practices. And when Jeff and I started getting to know each other, we realized that there's a real nice overlap between mind body skills, mindfulness practices, and the nurtured heart approach and cognitive behavioral therapy. So we're excited about bringing those together. So, Jeff, let me ask you a question. What are mind body skills?
Yeah, thank you. So, mind body skills are techniques that can really assist any individual with deepening self awareness, along with learning strategies for self regulation. And so many of us are really not aware of the mind body connection and how our thoughts and emotions influence our physical health. Some examples of this have been proven through research that the stress plays a key role in conditions such as ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic or persistent pain, and insomnia. Conversely, medical conditions that are related to our physical health can also cause or exacerbate mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression. So mind body skills teach us that we have more power over how our body and mind function than we may have been taught both explicitly and implicitly in our culture. In most first world Western cultures, we tend to favor getting treatment from clinicians for health conditions and less on exploring strategies to support our own wellness. Some examples of mind body skills that we'll be exploring in this series include meditation, biofeedback, guided imagery, and expressive activities like drawing, writing, and movement. So I'd like to ask you now, can you tell us what is the nurtured heart approach and how is it a cognitive behavioral therapy approach to parenting?
So, the nurtured heart approach was formulated and developed about 30 years ago by Howard Glasser, who's a child psychologist, and it's now used widely around the world. Um, I was surprised in both a parent with a very intense child for almost 2 decades. I was surprised that I had not heard of it, and it was actually another therapist that recommended it. So the nurtured heart approach really is a shift in the way we think about what's happening in our home and what's happening with our kids. So there's this old expression, catch them doing something good. And what happens with a lot of parents who have intense or difficult children is, and I know for myself, I thought they're not doing anything good. I'm going to wait around forever. And this approach teaches you to find the positive even within the negative experience that you're having in that moment. And so it's a real paradigm shift. It's very simple. It's 3 steps or stands, and but it fundamentally shifts the way that you think about your child. And that energetic shift, our kids can pick up on that. They can tell when we're angry, when we're dysregulated, when we're focused on what's going wrong. Well, in the midst of everything that's going wrong, there's always something going right. And frankly, when you start to look for it, it turns out there's a lot going right. And our kids resonate with that and they shift immediately because they want to lean into that energetic connection. Because that's what we all long for, right? Is relationship and to be seen and to be seen for who we know we are. Our intense kids, they know who they are. They know that they've got the power to, become a great leader, um, or that they have a really tender heart underneath that intensity. And when we focus on what's going wrong, we miss seeing them for who they really are. So it's a very beautiful, simple approach that shifts the energy in the relationship. And shockingly, everything else falls roughly into place. We're talking about kind of what it takes to get grounded, get regulated, be the parent that we want to be. How do we do that? And I do believe that the work that I had been doing in mindfulness practices and grounding practices helped me in the face of all of these challenges with my very intense kid.
Mm.
And so, can you speak to how learning these skills, these various mindfulness skills that you mentioned, how
Hmm.
that will help me as a parent?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Thank you. And really, these kinds of tools really fall under the umbrella of mind body medicine. You mentioned mindfulness, grounding, and I touched on a few of them at the end of my last question. And really, when we think about this, kids are wired to be aware of their caregiver's emotional state, since really their survival is dependent on having a stable adult in their life. And if we as the parent is dysregulated, then this is going to potentially lead to, behaviors with the kids that we care for. Um, and being a parent is incredibly fun and rewarding, while really also one of the most demanding and stressful roles anyone can take on. So recognizing when you're in a state of distress and taking steps to address that before it creates challenges with your children is really one key example of how mind body skills can be helpful as a parent. And then when you participate in this training, you're going to have the opportunity to explore all the tools. And I'm really wanting to encourage parents to take these tools into their daily life after each group session and share them with your kids, because they're all relatable no matter what age of kid, young adult, older adult that you're working with. So Bridget, um, how is it different, when you talk about the nurtured heart approach from other parenting techniques that are out there?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, when I was getting into sort of this crisis period with my teenager, and this crisis period lasted a couple of years, I have a lot of training and education, and I thought that I had tried everything. And a favorite tool that I found along the way at the time, it was a favorite tool, was called Therapeutic Parenting, an A to Z encyclopedia or handbook. And the idea was, I think there were hundreds of entries of if your kid is yelling, turn to the why and look up yelling and what's going on for them and how can you respond. And the difficulty I found in all of these approaches is they were complex, hard to remember and to engage in the heat of the moment. And some of us have easy kids, right? And we don't need these interventions in the heat of the moment. But when we have an intense kid, there's a lot of heat of the moment, and we forget all of this complex training or approaches.
Mm.
And so the nurtured heart approach, like I said a few minutes ago, it's a very simple approach. I like to think of it as kind of a reductionist approach. If you take all these different approaches and wisdom and psychology um, and you just kind of cook it down to its essence, right? Its sweet, beautiful essence. There's really three aspects to this approach. And what I have found is that in the moment, in the absolute heat of the moment, my kid is screaming at me or, demanding something. And I feel that activation, that escalation, that heat in my body, that, my blood pressure starts pounding in my head and I get confused. In those 2 years of crisis with my teenager, I can't tell you how many times I said to myself, I don't know what to do. I can't parent this kid. And I would just walk away. And now with the nurtured heart approach, it almost doesn't matter what situation presents itself. I know what to do. It's stand one, stand two, or stand three. And I'm excited to explore this fully in the class if listeners don't already know what the stands are. The other thing that I like to sort of describe in contrast is all of these other parenting approaches that I tried, and I tried every single one that I could get my hands on. Um, I'm a quick reader and I just powered through all of this material. All of it was helpful to me. It was all really interesting. It helped me, for example, early on, I made a commitment that I was never going to raise my voice again. And I'm not sure that I was 100% on that, but pretty close. Right. So all this reading was good, very helpful for me. It gave me more understanding and empathy, but it didn't move the needle with my kid at all. And when I found the nurtured heart approach, I started it on a Tuesday morning. I woke up Wednesday morning in a different household. No joke. It's the
Mhm.
craziest story. My kid responded to me totally differently. She actually didn't recognize my voice the next morning because my energy had shifted. All of a sudden, I saw the beauty of the power of her intensity and her strong will. And I was able to reframe all of that and approach her with love instead of resentment and fear and panic and anger and hurt and defensiveness. So, Jeff, how do these mind body skills complement other parenting frameworks? So we've talked about other parenting approaches and styles. And
Mhm.
then how does integrating mind body skills complement parenting in general?
Yeah, and you touched on having explored just so many different techniques that are out there, and what I like to tell people when you're learning an approach like this is you really want to be present with your kids. I think we all want that. I'm a parent of three kids, and they're all intense and fun, and have bring their own strengths and learning challenges to the table. And so as I work with them and think about how I want to adopt any kind of strategy to work with them, being present with them helps me to roll with any resistance that they may demonstrate in regards to the challenge, and also evaluate how what I'm trying is working. And really that's what mind body tools helps us with, is helps us to be present with each person that we're with. And our kids are, again, so attuned to our emotional state because their survival depends on it, especially the younger kids. And so they know when we're checked out. I think we've all had those experiences, especially in this current day and age where we get so distracted by our phones and all the demands. So many people trying to juggle a job and parenting and potentially taking care of their elder parents themselves. And so this approach is really helps you be in the present moment, and that's something that no matter what approach, whether you are interested in implementing nurtured heart or some other technique, or just wanting to enjoy a day where you're doing something fun with your kids, it really does help to embrace the present moment. So Bridget, I want to just now ask you, as you've talked about nurtured heart, because it sounds like it really works. And just why do you think that is?
Well, we're talking about the mindfulness, and at the heart, well, no pun intended, at the heart of the nurtured heart approach is this idea of what Howard has called the reset, where we either both and, so we either um, help our children to reset from their own dysregulation, and or we reset ourselves before we launch into parenting or disciplining our kids. And so this reset is fundamental to being able to show up the way we want to show up. None of us wants to show up like our angry, dysregulated selves. And sadly, that's what a lot of our kids see and experience on a daily basis growing up for 18 years, right? We have this idea of the parent that we know we can be, the parent that we are on our best days. And this reset helps us get there. I think in my case, I mentioned having done a lot of mindfulness work and grounding work prior to finding out about the nurtured heart approach. And so I really believe that it's this reset or this mindfulness or these mind body skills, this ability to get yourself grounded. And one of the questions that we ask a lot in the nurtured heart approach when we're feeling ourselves get dysregulated, once we've taken some breaths or we've done some, used some other tools, um, a lot of people, myself included, ask the question, and I believe that this is where some of the cognitive behavioral therapy comes in: who do I want to be in this moment? Right? So I've just gotten pissed in my head and I'm dysregulated and my kid is angry, and there's a part of me that is human and kind of animal and wants to lash out. And but inside that cognitive behavioral framework and inside that ability to reset myself, I get that choice of asking, who do I want to be? And I get to show up with intention and do that mindfully. So I believe it's the reset, the mindfulness aspect, um, that really brings us back to square one and takes us out of, we talk about a window of tolerance, right? We all have our window of tolerance. Some days it's narrow, some days it's wide. What can I do to open my window of tolerance? Right? Mind body skills helps with that. And if my window of tolerance is more open, then my ability to show up as the parent I want to be is greater. It's more likely. So I think that's how all of this ties together. And I'm really excited to bring these concepts, get into more detail and exploration over, I think we're doing an 8 or 9 week class. And so it's going to be great. We're going to do this over the lunch hour, and we'll be in and out in an hour. Jeff and I have busy schedules and other clients waiting, so this will be an efficient use of time. We'll deliver as much content as we can in that time, and we'll guarantee you we feel very confident that you will walk away a better parent, a more regulated human being. And I'll just throw in this joke. I've been joking since I learned the nurtured heart approach because I'm a therapist and I saw the transformation that also occurred in my heart, um, and in my approach. I joke that the nurtured heart approach is the gateway drug to personal development. So don't come if you don't want to see some real change in yourself as well. This isn't just about fixing our kids.
I will echo everything you just said. And I think that what I've learned in terms of using mind body skills and the nurtured heart approach is that we really are working on ourselves, and we learn so much as a parent. I think any parent will tell you it's quite the journey of self-exploration, and that the more that you're open to um, better understanding yourself and looking at how you can adapt and work through challenges, then the more successful you're going to be with your kids. So we're very excited to bring this combination of two approaches together that really seem to work well. And I want to thank you for taking the time to sit with us today. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you when the training starts.